All right, YouTube, it's done. I got her installed. It's a 1 hour break-in I did last night, so that's all done. Now I'm just waiting for good weather, and I gotta get my skis fixed. And then I can go flying. Today I'm just gonna go over everything it takes to install the 582. So all the little bits and pieces. I didn't film the whole process, I apologize, but I'm gonna do this video, and if there's parts of it that you don't like, just skip through them. And yeah, it's more just for the next guy that wants to do this, so he knows kind of what it takes. So we'll get started. So there she is. As I said before, if you go from a 503 to a 582, you need a 3-blade propeller in order to utilize that power. And because we are limited here on length, if you go with a 3-blade, you can do that. So I got a warp drive prop, awesome prop, love it, looks beautiful, adjustable. So I'm running it at 12.5 degrees as of right now. I might need to adjust it a little bit, but we'll see once I'm flying. So I guess I'll just kind of work through it the way it goes on. So first things first would be the motor mount. You will need a 8 bolt mount. And then, so when you buy the kit, it comes with this plate, the spacer in behind, which I'm not sure if you can see it in there. And then you got to get all new Lord mounts, and you got to drill these. You just set them in, mark them, drill them, and put all the bolts in. All these guys here on each side, and then there's 4 bolts that go into the case of the motor. And the torque on that, I gotta see that yet. Use Loctite and the right stuff, which is the red, I believe. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I should make sure I know what's kind. John Baker told me. This is what I used for the use that for the bolts for the redrive and for the bolts going into the motor. Okay, so then there's the 4 bolts that go into the motor. Obviously look up the torque on that as well. That's, I don't know if you can see it, but there they are down inside there. Right there is one of them. And they're the studs that come out of the block of the motor, and you mount it to the plate, and then when you hang the motor, you can have this all pre-assembled, and then all you got to do is put that bolt and that bolt in to hang the motor. So that's that mount. And then the rad kit here, it's got 3 different mounting points. So it came assembled. All I had to do was put the rods on the louvers here, and then run the cables, this cable and this cable. Give you a close shot. This is for the bottom louver, which I have off right now. And there's a louver that opens. It's a winter cover, because if it can't get the rad to let the coolant temp heat up enough, that's what it looks like. And it's got full rods for in the summer to take it off. I didn't need it last night. It was like 1 degrees out. I needed it off actually in order to get it to warm up. Sorry, it was overheating. I needed it off because I wasn't getting enough airflow. So mounts, you can see right in there. They mount right to the main tube. There's 6 rivets on each side there that you rivet on, and then it's a threaded rod with locker nuts that go in, and then it'll mount just on the top like that. And then the mounts back here, they just mount right into the back portion of the engine mount. You have to drill those holes, mark them and drill them. And take note of the bolt direction, how each head Because if you do it the other way, you're not going to get the wrench or something. They're not going to go in there because it'll hit the other bolt. So that's the direction they got to go. Nut on top, and in the C here, you just see the bolt head. So that's just to get it on, and then obviously I'll show these in a minute. I just drilled a hole through the top here. I took the top portion off so I could reach in there, because you're not going to be able to fish that through. I tried. It failed. This there is a cover that you can make or get that goes across here to help with air coming through in the wintertime, or anytime really. I didn't put it on. I didn't have it, to be honest. And I didn't even think about it till later. But inside my Challenger, they've done a great job of sealing the ceiling up here anyway. The whole ceiling is all sealed up. So these are the levers. I might have to shorten them. I'm a tall guy, and my head's getting very close to these. So I might shorten them really nice and short so I can gain a bit of headroom. If you see how these cables are done, these are supposed to, they told me to use gear clamps. I use zip ties on this end. I use gear clamps on top of the wing. And it's a safety wire to keep this from coming apart. And then yeah, I drilled it through the ceiling there on both sides, and that's about it, forward and back. And then these are also riveted to the root tube. So that's that. While I'm up here, I'll show you the water temp. That temp gauge, or that water temp gauge, was a direct swap out from my cylinder head temp. 4 bolts, easy peasy, came right out. Put the new one in, and then what I did was, these were the cylinder head temperature wires. I used 2 of them for the water temp sensor, and then I just used the harness that came with the water temp, these 3 wires here, and then one went to ground and then one to power. But anyway, they have a wiring diagram. But anyway, I reused the wires so I wouldn't have to run new wires all the way to the back. The other thing I did on this was, I have pull start, so no wiring for that, for electric start. I took all the wires out to save the weight, and I'm pull start. Now I got to run a rope to the front yet. I haven't done that yet, so that's something I'll have to get to in time. So I'll go back to the motor. So that's the rad system basically. Obviously you got to hook up the tubing for the antifreeze to the rad. So this goes from here, it comes with the kit. It's a sharp 90 and onto the T there. And then this is a bleeder hose that runs around and then ties into the back side of the rad right there. Right there. And then this hose, usually it comes back returned from the heater core, and most guys I see run that down along here and then 90 into the back. And then same with this one, it's the other way, and there's a 90 on the bottom of it and goes into the back. I managed to sneak it right through in behind the carbs and right up and in right there, and see the angle that this is on. If I was to do this again, I'd try to slide the rad back a bit further to the back of this mount, because this angle with getting the tube on, it doesn't really bend through there very nice. So I actually shortened this as well, just to get it higher so I could bend. If I was to go straight down, you can tell that the angle's wrong. But anyway, if the rad was further back, I'd have more play. But I had already mounted it, so I made it work. So obviously there's no heater core. I might be crazy, and I have a feeling I'm going to end up installing that before next winter, but we'll see. I have this idea, and I'm probably nuts, but little zero flame propane heater. I already had it mounted inside the cabin, and it's actually pretty sweet. So I'm going to try it, see how it works, whether I'm even comfortable with it running while I'm flying. Like I said, I'm kind of doubtful. but we'll see how that plays out. So to carry on here, that was the tubing for, so normally you would run this down, so they just go interchange, but normally you'd run it down and into your heater core, and this one comes down and into your heater core, and all those components come with the kit that you get from Klemp as well. So obviously double check all these connections. I had one of these hoses was actually leaking from the factory, so yeah, just double check these hoses for sure. I ran, what else do we want to cover now? Maybe fuel lines. Spark plugs, pretty straightforward. Look up the torque spec on them before you put them in, or talk to someone who knows. John Baker's a great reference. Anyone really. I should have wrote down all these torques before I did this video, but it is what it is. So primers, it's this guy right here, equal length on each side, and then run that up to your primer, and then from the primer it comes back into my main fuel line, which I don't know if you can see in there, but it's teed in underneath here. It goes through the fuel pump back through, and technically it'd be better if I teed in after the fuel filter, but I didn't. But it should be after the fuel filter if you can do it. But comes through here, so fuel pump and mechanical fuel pump pulls right through the electric fuel pump, one line all the way up into your inlet side of the mechanical fuel pump, and then obviously the pulse tubes at the bottom, it goes into the engine right back here. You'll see a nipple right there. And then the other two now going out, there's little arrows on this, go to each carb. So I ran them just around the back, into here and into here. The other thing I had to do was put John Baker's carb heater kit back in, which is pretty straightforward. They're just these little elements here. He drilled and tapped these for me when the engine was at his place. And then all the wiring, they send you all the pins for it. I gotta say, this was a little bit of a pain in the butt because the wires don't fit all that great. At least the ones that I had for it didn't fit all that great. So, but I got it done. I had to take the clamp off the motor because I didn't have enough length. So it is what it is. Now the mechanical fuel pump mount, that bolt goes through the first Lord mount. It's just a longer bolt that they provide with the kit. And then they make this nice little bracket that brings a fuel pump just out to the front side of the motor under the wing there. An issue I ran into was my throttle cable is too tight to this here. If this 90 was like this, see this? This one would hit the aileron, especially when it was all the way down. Even now it's hitting this. So I gotta maybe zip tie that. But so what I did was, and all my cables were just enough. Like I hardly had any play, but I had just enough to make it work. But I just took a set of adjustables and I bent this 90 now for the throttle. Now I still have play there. It's a little stiff because I bent it right where it goes in, but you know, a little bit of play is good. Might have to look at that because I don't have much play right now. Maybe my throttle's probably up a little bit. So anyway, that's the fuel lines. Rotary valve, make sure you bleed it. When you fill this, when it's an inverted installation, it has to be bled. So there's a bolt right here. You see where my finger is? You gotta open that until there's fluid coming out. I think it's 320 milliliters or something of oil that has to go in there approximately. So looks like I gotta top mine up a little bit after my run up yesterday. But yeah, it comes with the conversion to go to flip it. It's just a 90. It goes, if you can see this, and you got to make sure the arrows are going the right way on the tube. The one from the bottom goes on the right, and the one on the top goes on the left. Well, with an inverted motor, the one on the top is this one on the left. Has an arrow going out, and the one on the right's in. And obviously, it just went in behind the carb. Then you can see I have it in here. It's pretty tight in here, but it worked. I got it in there. What else? Don't over torque these, like very, very, very minimal, like 5 pounds or something, inch-pound, sorry. Don't even, again, check your specs. Don't take my word, but check the torque specs. I asked John Baker about that too. Very, very, almost zero torque on these. So redrive, Loctite, proper torque. I think it's 15 pounds, but don't quote me on that. Pretty sure that's what it was. But belt, it's got deflection. You can see a little bit of play there. This nut shouldn't be touching. You see how mine's been worn into the redrive? That shouldn't touch. Because if this starts to get loose and this is holding it, you don't want to break this. This shouldn't be the point at which that holds your redrive in place. This nut is what holds it in place. So don't rely on this. So back it off and then tie it off with a safety wire. This propeller, obviously, again, torque. Look up the torque specs for these guys and these guys. I don't have wires yet because I wanted to adjust the prop pitch. But yeah, once you get them torqued and run, torque them again, run them, and then if you want torque again, that's not going to hurt anything. And then lock wire these, which I haven't done yet, but it's coming. There's a special tool to use to get these guys into place. It's a 3/8 plumbing nut. If you thread it onto the bottom, you can push the wire out to get the, let's see if I got one here. It should be sitting around here. There it is. So when you're doing, and John Baker's told me this trick, because a 3/8 plumbing nut, you might have to drill this out just a little bit. But when you pull these out, these choke cables, this will thread right on the bottom. Just thread it right in, and then you can push the cable out and undo it from the connector. And this is the perfect tool to do that with. John says it's a special aircraft tool. Now, exhaust. This is how I got the flanges put on. It's pretty self-explanatory, those. I was concerned about this height here. Try to get as much distance as you can between the wing and the exhaust. I'm looking at this now and it looks like it's already rubbing on the bottom of my exhaust right there. So that needs to be addressed. Yeah, it's not cool. So that has to be addressed. This exhaust brackets, the bolts are too short because my yokes, I guess, are too long. So what I did is I just bought longer ANS bolts, and now it fits perfectly. Don't forget to put high heat anti-seize on these lubricant on these joints when you're putting them on. The other thing you got to do is obviously put the new EGTs back in right here. I learned something with that too. Don't just shove them in as far as they can. Take a measurement to center of the exhaust and aim, and then measure on the actual probe so that they're both in this, the tip of them are basically in the center of the exhaust, so you get equal reading. If it's actually touching the exhaust, it's gonna take some of the coolness of the exhaust into the sensor and give you a different reading. Again, something John Baker told me, taught me. That guy's been fantastic. Just picks up his phone, super nice to talk to, always helpful. So very thankful to have him on board with me, helping with everything. Man, kind of think I got most of it. I'm totally pumped to fly it, obviously. The fluid that goes in here is the same as your mix fluid, just 2-stroke oil. For your rotary valve, make sure the rad is 50-50. Don't go too much coolant. The heat won't exchange if you go too much coolant. So make sure it's 50-50. 50% water, 50% coolant. Antifreeze. Oh, what else? I put a new rectifier in right here. It's working good too. I could tell right away that it was charging. And then inside here I did a whole bunch of, so there's the primer, new primers right there. I did a whole bunch of tightening up of the stick. I got my new nice new handle here. It's not all ripped. But I put a new yoke in here, but really the yoke was fine, I believe. But all these nuts were starting to get really loose, and especially the bottom ones that go to the elevator. Those ones, see, there's even now, you can see, like, it's supposed to have that. That's a brand new yoke, and look at the play there. And that plays in the yoke. That's not in the stick. So is that normal? Am I supposed to have that much? I don't know. And I took the back seat out. I took the whole thing out back here and tightened up all these joints. Obviously they have to be loose, like just finger tight, but they were like, every one of them took a turn in a little bit. And yeah, it's way tighter now. So that might even have contributed to my fluttering a bit. Yeah, balancing the carbs, like to go look at John Baker's videos. He has a couple pencils that he uses. It works great. Set the idle, or set your idle first, then use the pencils to set your throttle so they're matched. If trim tab. The only thing I got to do yet is I want to go and there was the maintenance meeting. Who was it that put that on? EAA or something last week or something like that, and it was a Challenger maintenance one by a guy, and he was saying to put washers in here to prevent the play. I don't have any washers in this side, but this side I can see that I have some. And yeah, he said that'll help with taking the play out, because he said he was continually having to replace rivets. And I think, yeah, like this rivet here, I can see there's just a smidge of play. There's play in here, so I might take these bolts out, space them properly so there's less play there. Oh man, what else? Okay, so I'm doing my weight and balance here. I got all the fuel out of the plane and the motor's on, everything's completed. So I got 3 scales and they're sitting on blocks, so I can just roll the plane onto the scale. There's one there, one there, and then the back I have propped up so that the plane is level. I actually have a laser here that helps me see the level of the plane. It's extremely close. It's once I get the scale on the back, it'll be really close to being level. So yeah. Let's do it. So, back is 17.8 pounds. The front left is, it's just bouncing around a bit. Likely because of the wind. So I'm just going to shut that door for a sec so that the wings aren't bouncing up and down. Of course, every time I take a video, it's a windy day, it seems. Okay, So this side is 229. And this side, just give the wheel a slight push. 241. So in total, I got £487. I'm happy with that.